What's up, everyone, and welcome back to Daily Fantasy Sports Picks and Bets. It's The Mix, powered by Mayo Media Net here on YouTube and presented by Jock, the Daily Fantasy app where we get paid for being smart. Yay, woohoo! Download that bad boy for free. Use the promo code MMN. They're going to match the first $100 for free. If it's free, it's for me. How we doing? Who am I? It's your host, the big dude with the big mouth from the Big Apple, Big Johnny Stud, coming to you worldwide from Brooklyn, New York. As always, we are coming out the chair, as always, for this week 15 Monday Night Foosball matchup. We got Rams. We got the Cheeseheads. Let's do it to it. It's the 3 pillars of profit. You know how we do it here on Mayo Media Net. Please rate, review, and subscribe. And in just a minute after I earn it, I'm about to put on a clinic, and then I'm going to ask you to stick your cartoon finger up inside me, because those YouTube likes just matter more than they should. So enough of that. We need more of this. It's the fastest show in NFL. Absolutely. Anyway, you take that bad boy to the bank and rubber stamp it with my big name on it. Let's get it. We start, as always, with our blue chip stocks, brought to you by Jock Market. Love that. We're using Run the Sims projections. Make sure you're following those guys. Justin, the men and women over there, are doing excellent work. I like that they allow you to fine-tune team totals. Everybody, this is probably the best way to use projections to your advantage. Listen, lots of people are using projections. That's why daily and conventional sites have gotten much sharper. You don't want to start playing with the utilization stuff. That's where they have expertise. Where you want to is just fine-tune team totals. A half a point here, half a point there. I'm telling you, it is worth its weight in gold. All right, we have the highest projected players on each team. First, it's the Packers. Aaron Rodgers. Though, sorry, everyone, I think I have these flipped. We're in Green Bay. But it's Aaron Rodgers at the top at 17.5. Then we get a nice teardrop down to Aaron Jones at 12. The same exact projection for Alan Lazard. The same for A.J. Dillon. Remember, we don't want to overreact to decimal points. That's not how you do it. These things are averages. We're going to allow these projections, right, to sing to us, tell us a tale. We're going to do some analysis, and then hopefully be consistent and, leave here with more paper than when we started. And then it finishes up with my boy Christian Watson. So what do we got? It's really non-determinate, I think, is what we'd say, right? The Packer offense is going to flow through Aaron Rodgers. The Rams defense they're just in trouble, right? Anybody with Aaron Donald is going to be in trouble, but that is the stronger side of it. They're known for playing the super soft zone, and I think the projection systems see that, right? So it's going to funnel through Rodgers. Where's it going to go? We're not 100% sure, so everybody just gets the same projection. Keep an eye on Watson, right? It's very hard to project because you almost feel like it's never going to be 12. It's either going to be 4 or it's going to be 44, right? Other side, it's the Rams and Baker Mayfield. I mean, that was just like miraculous. I don't want to buy into this stuff. I do believe somewhat in pedigree. I do believe in Sean McVay. I don't want to go too far with any of that. This team is decimated with injuries, and we've kind of seen it. Let's pump the brakes on the Rams. It's Baker Mayfield projected at 13.4, right? Not too dissimilar from the entire Packers squad. Okay, so right off the bat, I'm thinking, this game I saw -6.5, -7, that doesn't feel like it jives to me. If everybody is going to hang double digits on the Packers every skill position, and nobody is really going to crack a dozen points on the Rams, spoiler for the audio-only listeners, it's down to Akers at 10.8, Higbee at 10.5, which, again, I don't know how you get to 10.5. He's averaging like 2 catches a game lately, to Van Jefferson at 9, and then Ben Skowronek at 7. That's probably the one that's a little bit low. We'll get into it in the second section with the penny stocks. Let's do a little bit of analysis here. As always, remember, audio-only listeners, you could jump on over to Twitter, at John Laghezza, or the Mayo Media Network handle, and kind of grab these graphics. They're always free. I think it's nice to have it in one place where you can kind of refer to it without, having me yammer over it and all that good stuff. So, all right, defense, as the season goes on, it becomes more and more difficult to provide all the proper nuance and context, especially in just a few minutes that we have here. I think it's more important with defenses to zoom a bit more in, of course, with injuries and stuff like that. Rams defense, again, going to be different with Aaron Donald. Bottom of the barrel last 8, 24 points a game, 5.6 yards a play, negative EPA, drive distance allowed over 34 yards, more than 3 minutes time of possession per drive. That's not any good, but you wouldn't quite think it was just as bad for the Packers. All that or worse, 390 a game, 6 yards per play, minus -0.06 EPA per play, 37 yards per drive, and again, 42% scoring drives allowed. It's been a real disaster for the Packers on the ground in particular. Last 8 games, over 170 rush yards a game, allowed over 5 yards per carry, almost 2 yards before contact per rush, right? That's really where they're getting smoked. And again, the Packers also, as far as the defensive package go, you see a lot more zone coverage than you see man. They're going to kind of play it soft, and you see that reflected in, the high yards per game, yards per reception, right? They've also allowed 14 passing touchdowns allowed last 8. Not what we expected from the Packers defense. You zoom on in, and I think we're seeing as they've gotten healthier, Packers D. So let's zoom in. Last 4, Rams defense falling apart, even worse. All those metrics are really bad. They're in the bottom 5 easily, minus 20.21 EPA per dropback. Over a 70% completion, allowed more than 12.5 yards per reception. Keep that in mind. Rams getting beat really, really deep because they are the top zone, I don't know if you want to call them the top zone coverage team, right? But they play the most zone in the league. And remember, again, some of the stuff, nuance and context I like to add is not just to do that, but it's about those numbers, right? So when a team plays a very heavy zone package, that number is going to be like in the high 80s. And then when you start to calculate all the like inches plays and stuff like that, it's almost a pure zone pack. Like they're not going to play man. So that could be helpful. Again, we're providing all these tools and stuff. It is on my Patreon page, but it's not... You don't have to pay. It's Freetron for, you and Metron. And I'm running all these defensive stats. You can get split metrics and stuff like that. Just check it out. All the stuff's funneled through Twitter. And if you really enjoy, hat tip Patty Mayo. He's kind of let me out the cage to kind of provide all this extra stuff, all that fun stuff that we're doing. All right. So last 4, Rams defense falling apart, allowing a lot of deep passes because of the zone. We're going to look at the zone pack and Aaron Rodgers with the pass catchers in the second section. Over to Green Bay. Again, I'm a little bit reticent about going after the passing stats as they have gotten healthier, right? Remember, that's really such a big factor in handicapping these games is like who's healthy. The Packers are coming off the bye. They've been playing better. And after they got that injection with Christian Watson, it feels like a different team. I mean, it is a different team. They were a team without weapons. It's still a guy who won 2 MVPs in the last 4 years. Aaron Rodgers is making his throws. You gotta have somebody there. You can't, that giant sucking sound of Devontae Adams. Where 100% of the team target's gonna go. They didn't properly replace it. They tried to sell us on Romeo Doubs. He's okay. You're gonna also see him progress, but then he got injured, right? And Watson ended up being the stir that strawed that drink. So I'm really into them in particular. You can see where I'm going with the Rams allowing the deep passes. I really like Watson, even though he has not been the main target in the zone. He has been productive. All right, over to the Packers side. I do have to put these numbers out there, and this is kind of up to us. This is last 4. Packers have been one of the worst defenses in the league easily. 439 yards a game, almost 7 yards per play, but it's pretty much all on the ground. Like, they are just getting decimated on the ground. Bottom 3 EPA per snap, 35 rushes per game, good for more than 200 rushing yards allowed. That's 5.72 yards per rush, almost 2 yards before contact, and 6 rushing touchdowns. But, like big shaking butt. Are the Rams going to be able to establish a run game without any kind of other threats, right? Because, again, you got to be very careful just going, bad rush team, good rush D, O and D. Compare it. It's not that simple because these things are more about the layered strategies, right? The punch and the counter punch. I mean, if the team knows that they can't stop the run or struggle with it, you'll get the extra man in the box, right? The Packers are going to dare the Rams to go up top again. We'll cover some of that stuff in the pass catching stuff. I don't know where they get it. The Rams are going to take their shots. That's one thing you're going to have to give Baker, and I think that's one thing that they've probably been driving into his head, which I know I'm not always the subjective better, but I think that is one thing that we're probably seeing from the Rams and McVay, at least right now. It might be the first time they're telling Baker to just go be you, bro. Just go throw the rock. And go be daring, he's going to do it. It's not always going to end well, right? So I don't think it's going to necessarily get there. But I do think they're going to challenge the Packers. I do think they're going to struggle to establish the run because, again, we've seen Akers. So we can do the rush stats here, right? Akers last 46% of the team rushes, 13 attempts per game, only 50 rush yards per game. He's gotten in the end zone, right? That's that deodorant that some of the better analysts that I like to mention. 3.9 yards per carry, not very good. 1.2 yards before contact per rush, not any good. 2.7 after contact, also not any good with only 2 targets. So I really want to pump the brake on Akers. I think that's the fool's gold. Now, again, I could be wearing this giant L on my big fat forehead by the end of tomorrow, but that's where I'm going to go. I think the public is going to chase Akers, seeing the weak Packers run D stats. I believe the Packers will stack the box, dare the Rams, and I don't think Akers is very good. Right, so it's not necessarily like the Rams have unleashed this run game on anybody. So I think the Packers actually are healthy, get it done against Akers and the Rams on the ground, dare them to do it. I'd probably be pivoting, especially in Jock market, where I believe, the prices on these backups and stuff are usually pretty disparate. I'd probably be looking more at Kyron Williams last 4. half the rush attempts, 6 attempts, half the rush yards, 25 yards per rush. So he's been just as effective on the ground. However, 8 targets, 5 for 43 and 3 receptions in 2 of the last 5. So that might be an interesting kind of prop also if you're into that. You're right, as we kind of do the Venn diagram thing, right? Conventional daily play, DraftKings, plus Jock market, and hopefully, some stuff in the middle, and I'm helping everybody at least, not just see, play this guy. It's not that easy. It's where are we putting the chips and how. So, boom. I think that will do it. I think it's a pretty good wrap on the blue chip section, man. All that and a bag of chips as we get the ball past the 50-yard line. So, just to wrap it really quick, I think blue chips is pretty simple, right? We definitely want to get with Rodgers. I think we definitely want to get with Jones, and I'm going to be looking more for Watson. Again, with the heavy zone play with the Rams, you probably get some dink and dunk stuff. So expect the Lazard 6 for 50, but that's not going to break any slate, right? So if you want to stand out, I think where some people might be reticent of pairing the running back, I think I'd be okay with that. So if me, it's Rodgers, Jones, and Watson. Other side, it's really tough to get with any Rams. I guess it's Skowronek if you're buying what Mayfield is selling, and if not, it's probably Jefferson for the daring end of that. All right, so that got us into opponent's territory. All right, let's do it to it. Second pillar of profit here at Mayo Media Net. It's your penny stock section brought to you by Jock Market. Love that app. Again, this is the reason why, right? I think in the front end, you're talking more about kind of betting and DFS because the blue chips, right, is blowing up the slate. And I think penny stocks is really where you're going to get paid in Jock Market. Remember, every play stands on its own. So one of the greater than signs for Jock Market is that you can play more than one quarterback. Now, this isn't necessarily the game to do that, but a lot of times when our favorite running quarterbacks are all in the same slate in conventional DFS, you have to choose one. Where yesterday, Mahomes, Hurts, Allen, whoever, let's go get him. And I think that's really clutch. Again, DFS kind of, you need to play a tight end. What if I don't want to play a tight end? What if I don't want to play? Right, I'm kind of stubborn in my ways. So that's some of the reasons I like Jock Market. Oh, wait, we got 2 quarterbacks, 3 running backs, 5 wideouts, a tight end, and if you squint, there's a partridge in a pear tree down there somewhere. Audio-only listeners, remember, you could jump on over. They've got all this stuff, and I think this probably is the preeminent Jock Market show. No one else really combining, these things, because I really think that there is a direct relationship between, again, it's a very small group of us, right, playing this thing of ours, where DFS or conventional ownership is going to be driving these IPOs, right? There's generally a fount of information, right? Projections come from singular places, butterfly ripple out and stuff. And again, there's a lot of correlation. So not to say we want to start going with the I know better method all the time, but you do have to be willing to push up against these things again because so many people are so sharp. But I think Jock Market opens the door for more profit, of course. I mean, of course, right? And DFS, it's a known thing. It's a 19 parlay, and you generally lose. Where in Jock Market, you could really play around even, similar to trading, because, single plays with progressive tops can float baselines, right? There's a little bit of trading strategy for everybody out there also. So it's Rodgers and it's Mayfield, of course. There are only 2 QBs in the game. Baker last game, 22 of 35, 231 and 91. Passer rating 6.5 YPA. 71% of targets went to wideouts, 11 running back, 14 tight end. So think about that, right? They're trying to shell him, right? It's a close pack. They're running the ball, and when they're not, they're going to try and protect him and give him some time to get it out. 6.5 YPA, pretty much getting smoked by, the Skowronek thing. Let's do Rodgers first, then we'll get into the pass catchers. Rodgers, last 4, again, not to be cherry-picking stats, but I think the Watson thing matters, and they're coming off the bye. So Rodgers, last 4, 67 of 773, 8 and 2. 101 passer rating, 7.3 YPA. This has been the better version of Aaron Rodgers. Again, he's a good player. He's awesome. People are getting ready to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I think the Packers on the acceleration, right? Life being a series of ebbs and flows, peaks and valleys. I think Rodgers and the Packers are on the upswing. Again, give me the health, give me the talent. I love Christian Watson. I really like Aaron Rodgers. He's very good. Positive EPA versus man end zone in that time frame. 23% of targets to the running back, 61 wide out, 12% tight end. Forget the tight ends. Really jumping off the board here, though. 35% of his targets are going to the slot, 50% outside, and a double-digit deep rate. So that's your Rodgers. That's Aaron Rodgers, okay? He's going outside. He's going deep. He is going to the wide outs, okay? This is the better form of the Packers. I'm really getting back into the Packers pass catching stuff. All right, to the value running backs. We covered some of the running stuff already. Dillon coming up as the highest cost per point, right? We mentioned very similar projections, right? Dillon was right there too, 11-8 to the Jones 12-1. However, his salary at 6-2 compared to 11-2. If you're a projection guy, I mean, this is obviously a slam dunk. You don't need me to tell you, do the math, that the cost per point is going to be nearly half. And then when you look at the ownership, there's like that bit of sharpness, right? Dillon's ownership projection is higher at 48 to Jones' 36. However, I don't think that traverses the gap. So where I mentioned Jones before, again, I think we're getting to health. I know they were splitting work, but I am a Jones believer, in the guy that we thought we were getting in the second round, let's say, of fantasy drafts. Yes, Dillon got the big work against Chicago, but it's really been all Jones. We don't have to look back too far. 24 carries against Dallas, went for 138 and 1. Then the very next game, 6 catches. So all of those are in the range of outcomes. I think we're going to get closer to the 18 to 21 touch range than we would get to the 13 to 15 maybe we saw, as again, they're limping to the bye. A week 14 bye. Whatever, that's so ridiculous. I have a bone to pick with the schedule makers for the NFL, although I think they got their comeuppance putting Denver on the slate and the Rams on every slate. Good, that's what you get. Ultimately frustrating. And then Cam Akers is the other value for the Rams. We mentioned it before. For me, it's really a whole lot of nothing. It just feels like smoke. It's not very efficient. He's not very explosive. I don't think they are able, meaning the Rams, I don't think they're able to challenge the defense, like I said, in ways that they're going to open up the lanes that they need. Again, I'm not much of a 150 entry player, and I think that opens the door to like this weird analysis. Well, nothing surprised me. Let's do this. Everybody does everything. So I'd like to be a bit more focused, not to say single entry is the only way, but I think trying to do analysis, I'd like to be more focused, right? Let's go to 3 to 5, right? It's not a single narrative, but draw up a couple narratives and then just make sure, people, that your bets properly reflect the analysis that you've done. I think that's the most important thing, especially in Jock Mark, because you only get one whack at it. In conventional DFS, which is why DK is so great. Listen, I don't mean to slander it. It is really good, and sure, people can make money at it. But draw it up and be consistent. You can't believe how many times, again, I wear all of my losses very publicly. How many times I've said, I don't expect a lot of scoring. And I end up with overs or just things that don't make sense, right? That are not consistent with my analysis. So stick with it again. So I'm not going to be going after Akers as much as I like Dillon. I think I'm going to get away from it. I'm going to be pivoting and going for Jones in Jock Market. I'm not buying really what the IPOs are selling, but I know Jones has that singular upside, right? He is like that guy with the 4 touchdown games. So he has a few of those. One of the few players in history I think that does. So I'm going to go with Jones. I'm going to pivot Dillon at my own detriment, let's say. But again, in Jock Market, you could get a little bit of exposure to him. I don't know if I'd run them both out, but that would be a unique look in showdowns. Let's get into the pass catching stuff and do as much of it as we can. I'll read it to you first, and we'll go over as many stats as I can get before we kind of get out of here. Right? It's Lazard, 12.1 points, 7.6 salary with the 630 cost per point. That's going to be really good. Remember, again, nuance and context. On showdown slates, you're lucky if you get these cost per points down to 600, 650. And that's why I like the main slate so much more, and why I usually suggest new players to wait for main slates to jump in and use that free promo cash that you get when you sign up and use the code MMN. Because you get cost per points down in the 250s and 300s, IPOs that are in the 3 range with possibilities to, double, triple, and quadruple up without really having to be very good at all. It's so funny. I'm like Mr. Low Expectations, but hey man, the grind up, right, that yodeler in Price is Right. And I'm fine with that. I'm not looking for the parabolic shot up. Very rarely does that happen in life. All right, there we go. I just ate into some of the time that I should have been doing analysis, rambling the big old mouth. All right, so what do I got here? I have to give myself notes for notes. All right, we wanted to look at Green Bay against the zone. All right, so I got that here. This is Green Bay against the zone since we got Watson. Now, it's been pretty focused at the top, maybe what you'd expect. Who's the target leader? It is Christian Watson. However, the efficiency is not great, right? Because of the depth of target. Air yard per target is up near 20, right? That 28 dot is really thick. But on 15 targets, 8 for 111 and 2 touchdowns, right? So we know the explosions are there. The explosive plays are there. And that's why I really like Watson so much. Every time you see this guy running across the field. He's another one of those people, again, Quick X and O may be more important than any of these numbers. Again, you can always hit me up, and I do have the sheets out here. You can go check them for yourself. All the stuff is 100% free. Tag Patty Mayo. You can thank him for that. All these advanced stats of every single thing that I mentioned, I draw it from my own fountain and then share with everybody. I've been very lucky in this life. So it's Watson with the deep A dot, 8, 111, and 2, right? But after that, the target leaders, after that, it's Jones, 12, 66, and 1. Alan Lazard, 10 for 111 and 0. So really, I think Lazard has to pop. Maybe I have to bite my tongue on what I was saying before. Maybe he's a bit boring. Well, if they're really going to run a ton of zone, and if Green Bay, not saying will abandon the run, but if they were going to look to extend the run game through the pass, that's where you see those high Jones looks, right? So it does kind of lend itself, not just fundamentally, right? We've seen the kind of in action. Jones gets himself worked in, and I guess Lazard, where maybe I still go that like 5 for 50. Man, could be 5 for 50 in the first half. And then if that turns into like 9 for 81, yeah, nothing is really great, but he does get home. So in my Packer stack, I'm adding Lazard. Right? So go with the 4 Packers. I'm going blowout here, right? So that's what it is, right? So you go Rodgers, Jones, Lazard, and Watson, right? Watson scores the early TD, maybe 2, and Lazard is piling it up the whole game. And I think there's really a way here that the Packers just kill them. People have a stank of the narrative that the Packers are no good. The thing I wanted to get to about Watson, the X's and O's I was alluding to is this. Remember, we've mentioned a ton of this. Scoring is down because of the inception of these 2 high shells. People beating it to death. It's a bit more nuanced than that. But because of these preventative defensive schematics, right, we're seeing teams have to play underneath. And because of that, right, you see longer drives. You need more efficiency. It's harder to make 15 plays than it is 4, even if they're at a higher probability. But what ends up happening, they end up being in the middle of the field, either slot targets from the shotgun or running the ball in the middle. And what do all those things have in common? Tick, 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 tick. And that's part of why scoring, was down. So I was actually thinking, I wonder if the NFL would ever stop the clock on first downs at college, that would bring our scoring back without changing the game too much. So I do like Lazard against it. After that, it's really not much of anything. I know I had mentioned Rodgers early on with the heavy slot targets, not as much against the zone. So where people might be looking for Cobb to take advantage of the soft zone pack from the Rams, I think I'd be fading Cobb in this one, and I think I'm going to go with Lazard as my guy. It's probably a bit more of a cerebral thing and be able to find those soft spots in it. So I think that's good for the Packers. Let's do a bit of the Ram stuff. All right, this was just the last game with Baker Mayfield. Again, the cherriest of cherry picks, but it's what we got. I mean, could you have a bigger difference than having, changing your quarterback? And of course, they've lost Kupp and they've lost Allen Robinson. God, the Rams are just terrible. I think they were going to get killed. That could just be. All right, and actually at the top of the board, it's Tutu Atwell, 9 targets with 5 for 15, 36% target per route run, better than 12 A-dot. 116 air yards, 40% of the team air yards, and 5 slot targets. So there's something there with Atwell. It's not just like Deshaun Jackson. You're looking for 1 for 60 and 1. He did get peppered. I'm telling you, Mayfield's he's gonna be daring. Then it was Skowronek. He was doing all the underneath stuff. 8 targets, 7 for 89 and 1. All the high efficiency stuff. 22% target per route run. 10 A-dot, 83 air yards. 28% of the team air and 0 slot targets. So again, look for Skowronek underneath. It's going to be interesting to see. Packers play a lot of zone, but it is a bit of a mix. I think their man pack is probably up in the high 20s, which is like mid-range, And then it's Van Jefferson. There's your Deshaun Watson, like all or none thing. The thing I did isolate here is with those, remember, again, if you're a team, when we say a team plays like a lot of man, right, I put the number to the zone up in the high 80s. A lot of man is in the high 30s. An excessive man is like in the high 40s. That's the Giants. So remember, even a team that plays a ton of man, it's really only about half the time. Packers play man just around a third of the time, like I was saying. So there are going to be snaps here where Van Jefferson, 4 targets, 2 for 44, and 1. He was the top target against man. So I think that also plays itself into my narrative. So there you go. So there's my showdown team, right? It's or my my portfolio, right? If I were looking for the top end, it's Rodgers to Jones with Watson, Lazard coming back with Jefferson, looking for the Rams to isolate man coverage at certain times, and when they do, that's going to be it, right? You'll see Mayfield kind of go for it all. But if you want to buck that, right, and you're into the Packers stink thing, remember, I'm not like, I'm right, you're wrong, and you're stupid. We're just different, and I'm oftentimes wrong. So buck my work, but make sure that you're using the stuff that we do to make sure it makes sense. That there is a chance, right, where the Rams are able to run the ball. Then if they're able to run the ball, then maybe you see some underneath. So the flip side still might not be Mayfield, but that would be Akers, Skowronek, Atwell. And then the flip side of a closer game would probably be Lazard, and then maybe you go Dillon or Jones. You kind of have to coin flip. I don't think anyone has a definitive answer to that. And at the bottom, the tight ends, nobody cares. Higbee, I do not buy this 10-point projection. I'm going under. I'm going to go under Higbee everything. If you can find like a fantasy point thing, like anywhere that offers this stuff, I'm going under. I don't see how he gets there. I think he has 2 catches. It's been trailing off. They're using all these season stats, but you're changing quarterbacks, you're changing usage numbers, new wide receivers and stuff. So he's averaging 2 catches and 17 yards over the last month with a 4 ADOT and 0 yards after catch. So forget Higbee. He's going to catch it. He's going to go 2 for 8 and fall down. And no, thank you, thanks, but no thanks. All right, that will do it for the penny stock section. So I think, remember, the very, very, very last thing, our favorite lesson here is value is a rate stat, right? So just because something is cheaper doesn't make it a value. Case in point, the quarterbacks here. Rodgers and Mayfield only separated by 800 DK bucks, which is very minimal, but Rodgers with the much higher projection makes him a much better value, right? It's probably reflected in the IPO, but just to that point. All right, so the values, I think we're going to add Lazard. I think you have to add Skowronek if that IPO holds around $6. I think he's a viable play. I'm not going to go to Lazard up near $10. Watson's the kind of guy I'll go to $10 for because he has a chance to really finish as the number 1 guy. We know that. And then for the Rams guys, it's going to be really tough. Maybe Atwell at 7 if you're getting volume. Jefferson's going to be tough to pay 6 for such minimal targets. But all right, that will do it for the penny stock section. We are in the green zone. Let's get the ball to the big man so I can do my dance in the end zone. I've been practicing these all year. All right, let's close this bad boy out strong with your Week 15 Monday Night Foosball prop brought to you by Jock. Make sure you download that app and use the promo code MMN. And then, follow along. I am in the JM streets every single day, and except for, don't ask about yesterday, but the 4 weeks before, I was in the top, 10 or 15 on the leaderboard every week. I really love playing Jock Market again, because I think with all this analysis, right, rather than having me write about the whole thing or none, individualized kind of betting has got us there. So I have Christian Watson, right? I won't hold the audio-only listeners in suspense any longer. Before we get out of here, really quick, Christian Watson, plus 50 alt receiving yards. People, I just cannot recommend props in the negative because of what I mentioned before. Scoring is down. When matchups get exposed, they generally get hyper exposed. So I'm putting the most conservative alt prop here at 50, and that's plus 100, so even money. Watts, I don't even know if I don't know if he has under 50. I think the 2 games that it's under 50, I think it's 48. This guy's ceiling is tremendous. And you don't want to hit these props, or at least in my opinion, you don't want to hit these props and just miss. Yeah, he had 48, 2 of the last 4. The other 2 were over 107. And I think this is kind of going to lend to my point, where I've been really getting into these ladder plays, and if you're following my Patreon page, even though it seems like we're getting hammered, because again, you're playing long shot stuff, right? Just because it's more bets doesn't mean it's more risk. Okay, so what I am recommending people doing, if you're really into betting and just trying to sustain, right? If you're really trying to be serious about this stuff, if it's recreational, play this one. Okay, you play for 150 yards. Certainly in the cards, he can get it in a single play. So if you don't have it going into the last drive and the Packers are down, you could get it. But what I want to be doing is getting behind, again, these singular matchups that have gone to the moon. So if you had a Watson prop at minus 120 for 40 yards those 2 times, that's what you hit. And let's say you hit one, you miss one, 50% loser. If you're playing these, the weeks that you hit cover multiple weeks with the same risk, all right? So regardless if it's, again, I hate when people do that. You got to bet all this money. You don't have to bet all this money. Your R is your R, whether it's $10, $50, $100. Now, I can't say $2 because you can't really split $2 enough ways, but you can do it with $10, right? You can even do it with $5. Split these bets quickly before we get out of here and before we do it, get the big face there and the big nose. Put yourself in sustainable positions, right? When you set the bet, make the lowest parameter a profitable venture. Okay, so meaning let's say you were going to bet $10, then you really want to bet at least, right, 6, right? Because so if you bet 6 and you double it, 20% of the venture. If you went to 7, goes to 14, it's 40% of the venture. How about that? Let's go with that. So instead of betting 10 on a minus 110 and giving me $8, which I just don't understand anymore. Just don't pay juice, people. You want good advice? Just don't pay juice. You bet a piece of it, where if you hit the low bar, the whole thing is a profit. You move on the next day. That's what this game is all about, the black, right? Because anytime you lose 10%, you need 11% gain to get it back. Build the rest up the ladder, okay? So you have 7 days, you have $3 left. You put $1 on the 50, you put $1 on the 60, you put $1 on the 70, or $1 on the 80, 90, and 100, where these odds are ridiculous. They are ridiculous, and in my opinion, they don't keep up with it. I'll read it to you really quick, and then we're going to get out of here. So, I'm funny. The odds are actually, close on value going against me for the first time. 50 yards at 108, 60 yards 174, 70 yards 270, 80 yards 390. Listen, if you get that, boop, 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 39, it's 390 plus 270. That's over 6 to go with the 14. And it's turned it into 20 now, right? I'm just telling you, that's how you want to do it. Climb up these ladders, get with us at Mayo Media, and all the great nuance and context and stuff that you get here when you rock with us. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the audio-only pod. Thank you all for sticking around. Your time is so precious. That's why I jam so much shite into this box to try and make it, worthwhile and leave you with something beyond just this game's analysis as we crawl towards the end of the NFL season. I know the holidays, the injuries, teams being eliminated, fantasy stuff ending. Those out there, I really do appreciate you. Get up in the comments, and I'll do my best to get back at you. And if you want to get the big man, the biggest Christmas gift, it's a 5-star review. All right, thanks so much for picking up what we're putting down here. Enjoy the game. Enjoy your day. When we're done with the book, enjoy that pay. And remember, when you work this hard, it feels a lot less like luck, yo.